it's not necessarily a bad thing that you have an opposition politician in the cabinet. Nyesom Wike himself does not make PDP. So Amaza is his one.
I think that question is misinterpreted. What I meant was, he seemed to be the only, if I'm not mistaken, the only major opposition party member in that list. So if it was something that perhaps the president looked at and said we need to take people along who are capable, I'm sure that there are other opposition political parties that have credible individuals that could fit some of these roles.
Yeah, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. But then with politics, and again, it's not a uniquely Nigerian situation. Their own different parameters of how involved you're in the campaign, how they feel the need to reward will always come into play. However, it's a matter of expecting a lot from this cabinet. I think we should still expect a lot, not necessarily because we believe in their capacity to deliver, but because it's their duty to deliver. Whether they no matter whether we think they're competent for the roles they are assigned to, you should not, and we should still push them and have high expectation of them, so that the delivery that they need to make is not diminished. I agree with you that some of the portfolios are very weird, like how you add a politician and a medical doctor is being assigned to the Minister for Education. You have two layers in labor, and it cycles back to our initial point around that in lack of thorough screening because their portfolios were not assigned. If their portfolios were assigned from the beginning, then we can now hold the Senate responsible and say you ought to have asked them better questions around this.
Which is also critical.
Which is very critical. We, the public, can also make judgments around their being fit and proper for those roles based on their competence.
If these people, which ministry they would be heading, but that did not happen, which would then mean that some of them did not even have a blueprint for a job that they are coming for. So, with that in mind, should Nigerians be hopeful?
Well, I think we should. It should make us slightly worried at the very least. And I think it also speaks to the question of how is this process of selecting this cabinet members, how does it take place? Does the president have a conversation with them around, I want you in this role, and then these are the kind of things I want you to go and achieve, or let's have define your key performance indicators. It doesn't seem like this happened, and we can even see from last night when there was that reshuffle, which makes even which also speaks to like, was there any was this done well thought out process where you know that I want this person, I want him this role because I've seen what he or she can deliver, and all of these things have becoming too embedded in our political culture, and that's something that we need to really do away with and change, so that it's now we're not left again back to fingers crossed and hoping that these folks know the right things to do, especially when they are being put in roles in sectors they have never worked in. We have a situation where there are a couple of new ministries, so we don't even know what exactly these ministries are really intended to do and how can these people deliver. These questions are very, very important.
All right. Now, Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, because some changes were made. Now, for health, we know the situation in the health sector at the moment. We know the strikes that we are currently facing. We're also aware of the protests for labor and the rest of them. Some of these people were former governors. For instance, Simon Lalong. I know Simon Lalong, former governor of Plateau State. He is the Minister for Labor and Employment. And if you are to judge by the performances while at the state level, people will begin to look at the issues we're facing and whether or not these people can handle these issues and move the country forward, especially in those areas, will begin to come into question. But most importantly would be those people who had certain petitions against them and cases to answer. I mean, during the screening, we all saw and we heard several cases, El Rufai's and even the situation with Kiamo and the rest of them. The fact that these gentlemen still made it onto the list, what should we take out of it?
Well, I think it's still again speaks back to the question of what is the process. We have a very undefined or opaque process by which our president, not just the current president, but also previous ones, is very opaque.
Communications Officer, Yiaga Africa. My name is Ifeemi Andrew. We're looking at the State of the Nation and the new ministers swearing in, which would be taking place today. Before we went on that break, the question was around some of the minister designates who had certain issues during their screening because of petitions that were brought up on security for El Rufai, and one other person that was also in the midst of that was Kiamo. And then we also had one of the nominees whose documents was very questionable, and the senator from Rivers State was pointed out that particular situation, and that's Onwelonye, so to be precise. And we didn't see all of these things resolved, but eventually, somehow, a list with portfolios have been released, and these ministers will be sworn in today. And the question is, where does that leave us? What should we think? Mr. Mark, thank you for staying on the line.
You're welcome.
All right, so quickly, before we get on to some of the comments on social media and phone lines, by the way, we're streaming live on Facebook. So wherever you are, you can join in on the conversation. It is Nigeria Info 92.3 PH on Facebook. On X, it is Nigeria Info PH. The WhatsApp number is 0809 030 6416. With the new ministers, are you expecting new changes in the various sectors? I highlighted a few of them that are quite very important at the moment and at the forefront. Labor, Ministry for Labor and Employment is one. Ministry for Health is another one. Ministry for Education is another one. I mean, we're aware of the situation with strikes, ASU, etc., etc. There's still one more I think I'm leaving out that's also quite aviation. We know what the forex situation is like, and then oil and gas. These sectors quite important, not to say others aren't, but we know what these sectors mean to us at the moment with the issues that they are facing. So, Mr. Mark, the petitions and some of the questionable characters that we saw during the screening, but eventually they still are on the list. Where does that leave us?
Well, like you said, it really leaves us mind-boggling regarding what the purpose of the screening is. If questions are raised and not resolved, and yet still the nominees go through. In Governor Rufai's case, for example, we don't know what the nature of the petitions. We don't know what it contains. These are not made public. But the question is, even as he has reportedly withdrawn from his nomination, what then are the security agencies going to act on those petitions? He's no longer covered by immunity. This is assuming that they are security or criminal-related petitions. In some other cases, it's. I think our Senate needs to understand that when it comes to these screenings, it's not just to be routine. It's to be as thorough as possible. It's to be you're basically interviewing them for a job. It looks like the Senate was more miffed by when the minister designate had either said something that offended them in a personal capacity or tweeted something that they found in their own judgment to be unpatriotic than around the competence of these ministers. If a minister doesn't have his ducks in a row regarding his document, it shouldn't be senators are supposed to be screening him, to defending him without him rectifying that situation. So we need to be more thorough. More intentional.
Would you call for these things to be made public? Like the RFI situation, I was just saying, we don't know whether all of these issues have been resolved or not. We know that Festus Keyamo is here. El Rufai, yes, is not on the list, but we know that the ministers are not complete. Whether or not these people might eventually still end up being on the list. But the fact that these things were raised publicly, and then would you say that the resolutions should also be made public and Nigerians see how the House arrived at making the decisions that they would make?
Yeah, I do agree. I think those things, it should also be, the resolution should be made public. You've already raised the petitions publicly. Like I said, we don't know the nature, we don't know what is contained in petitions against RFI, for example. But then when you now do not do these things, it just leaves too much room for speculation. It just leaves too much room for speculation. If you have come out to say these are the things that we raised against the nominee, it shouldn't just be brushed under the carpet and ended because he no longer is going to be a minister. What are the petitions? So what's the action taken from then on? Moving forward is very, very important. For all of those which were questions raised, it's really important. For full accountability and transparency, that those resolutions are also made known to the public.
There were talks about protest around the choice for Minister of Sports, Youth and Sports at the time. I think there's been changes now. Whether those changes were as a result of that displeasure that was expressed by some young people. I'm talking about John Onwaeno, who was about, I think, around 57, close to 60 years of age at the time. And many were uncomfortable with that, which brings us to even the representation in the sense of the youthful representation in the minister designates that we have coming in. Some people think that all of these signs and even the last minute reshuffling is a pointer to the fact that the current administration isn't well prepared and still is guessing around with its work. Do you share the same opinion?
To an extent, I do share that opinion, but just a point of correction: John Eno is not the minister.
Yeah, I said adjustments have been made. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but then they were.
Well, yes, he was. So you know that the Youth and Sport has now been split into two ministries.
Yes.
And the Youth Ministry currently doesn't have any minister designate. But regarding in terms of the preparedness, yes, I have serious doubts about that, because we keep seeing minister nominations being withdrawn on the days of the screening for the nominee, last minute reshuffling because a ministry didn't have a minister, and all of those kinds of issues are all things that just points to make you wonder. The president had at least 60 days from swearing in, and 3 months, 3 months before being sworn in, and yet we are still back at this. We are still at this juncture, which I feel like all this time should have given him is enough to be able to know precisely who goes where. I know there will always be lobbying and last minute thinking and rejigging, but it should not be when you're already putting out the list of ministers after you have gone through screening and you have assigned portfolios. You are still trying to figure out who you place where.
For the Ministry of Youth and Sports, I'll still come back to this. The fact that, I don't know, we see what happens with the NFF. Recently, we had the Super Falcons play at the Female World Cup. And on Twitter, it was something, I beg your pardon, on X, it was something else where we had we had the protests from the players of the Super Eagles and money's being owed to these girls and all of that. Many have said over the years that we need to adjust, perhaps look at the age bracket for people who come into this field, and it should be people who have been in the field or who are in the field man these positions. For instance, the minister designate John Onwaeno for sports is a politician, a farmer, and philanthropist, and that would get people to say, shouldn't we have at least sportsmen and women in the Ministry of Sports heading those ministries because they've been part of the system and actually engaged in sports?
So I agree with you that, yes, the age is really important. We need to be really good to see a young person as Youth Minister of Youth. But beyond just being young, somebody who is capable, who is competent. Same for sports. You need someone who has experience dealing with around sports development, sports policy, youth development, youth policy for the Ministry of Youth. And we're not lacking in such people. We have continually treated these ministries as compensatory ministries, where you just give a politician as a way of compensating them for their contributions to your campaign, or keeping them close within your orbit. And that has to change, because every ministry deals with sectoral issues, with real life issues, and they have their importance. So that attitude, and we do the same thing with the Ministry of Women Affairs, where we just give it to a woman politician. Gratefully, we haven't had a man run that office. Gratefully. So, but then, is the woman, does she understand the issues that women face, that she needs to deal with, that she needs to look prioritize in her running that ministry? These are very, very important. Not just to have a politician and just being put there just stand as a way of saying thank you, job well done for helping you win the elections.
All right, let's open the phone lines. We'll take some comments on WhatsApp and on Facebook. Your expectations from the minister designates. They will be sworn in today and be called ministers officially. Are your expectations high? Are they low? What do you think when you look at the individuals who are in the various ministries? I know you highlighted the fact that Kiamo is Minister for Aviation, and many people have also brought up the conversations around having technocrats and professionals in some of these very important and sensitive ministries that would require those sort of expertise as against having politicians. Do you think that is something that should be looked at? We'll come to that and get your response. But let's first start off with the phone lines. 0817 923 0007. 0817 923 0007. You can also call 0817 923 0003. Those are the numbers to call. I'll be taking some of the messages on Facebook first. Remember, it is Nigeria Info 92.3 PH on Facebook, so join the conversation. And Nehe Shuaibu says, I expect new changes, especially from the former governor, Rivers State, and minister of the FCT. He will work and he will do better than El Rufai in cleaning Abuja and its environs. Also, he is the first to become FCT minister from the south, so he should write his name in gold. Mohaji Henry says, good morning, gentlemen. The ministers are supposed to make a difference, but Nigerian factor will not allow them. Tamono Itekena Dagogo says, I think we should start campaigning for an amendment in the constitution or a bill that defines confirmation process, that nominees would be nominated with portfolios and the nominees without portfolios, and the nominees would be screened by the committee responsible for that ministry being, okay, you are saying the bill should say that nominees should be nominated with portfolios and be screened by Senate committee or committees responsible for that ministry before being advanced to the main Senate for a simple vote. This would make the ministers set their target and give us a blueprint even before they are confirmed. All right, we'll go to the phone lines. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and then we go straight to the point. The numbers again are 0817 923 0003, 0817 923 0007. Jones Peace on Facebook says, President Tinubu submitted these names at the National Assembly as ministerial nominees without assigned portfolios that would have made the Assembly screen them accordingly. They were screened as individuals not based on the office they should be occupying. I stand to be corrected though, so I don't think there would be so much changes unless they would learn the nitty-gritties while on the job. That's something that many have also suggested, learning on the job. But does the Assembly not have the powers to have said to the President, we are not screening these people without portfolios attached? Isn't that something you think the Assembly could have done?
So I guess that question is to me, right?
Yes.
Yes, they are. They have that. It's within their powers. While the Constitution mandates them to screen ministers designated, it doesn't define the criteria for nomination. So the Senate have the power to say, we are not going to screen these nominees unless you attach portfolios. I agree with the person who said we need to amend the Constitution to make it mandatory to attach portfolios. But I'm also saddened that we have to force it. It's the same way we had to make it mandatory that you have to have a cabinet nominated within the first 60 days. Because you ought to know that there's so much that rests on having a cabinet. It took President Obasanjo 6 days to nominate a cabinet in 1999. 6 days. And that was switching from a military rule to democracy. We should have regressed from that period where we have, President Tinubu on the eve of the 60 days expiring, just to stay within the constitutional limits, nominated a cabinet. It shouldn't be so. So it shouldn't be so that we have to force them to nominate ministers with portfolios. It should be common sense. But yes, the Senate also has, we should not also excuse the Senate's laxity in allowing this to pass through. They have that power to say, we are not going to nominate these ministers until you send them with portfolios.
Let's go to Victor in Owerri. Victor, good morning. All right, we lost the call from Victor. Letambari is in Bori. Letambari, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, straight to the point. Are you expecting much from the new Senate ministers?
Well, it is our norms. It is the norms that they will normally swear in ministers' technicians, designate. And any minister that is appointed without a portfolio, I think it looks as if we don't have a direction. Because in the recent, you're supposed to be trained with the portfolio attached to your office. And when this is not done, the Senate too lacks the very area of question to ask you, because it will be like a normal general question. Can you recite the national anthem? All those kind of things. Is it what we are supposed to hear? As a technocrat, they are supposed to interview you based on your field, your educational field. But this one, it is not like that. So I am still surprised if the ministers will still have what it takes to give us what we want. Because now you don't own, you are not giving an office according to what you practice. That is why they will begin to dazzle from one place to the other. But however, I wouldn't like to pray a negative prayer to this country, because we have been dazzled into a pit that we need people who have the wealth of experience to elevate and raise up from. All right,
Leighton Barry, let's move on to Braid in Borokri now. Braid, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Etienne.
Welcome, Braid.
For me, there is a square peg on a round hole. And if you look at what is going on with this administration, I doubt if the ministers that have been appointed will be up and doing. The president selects his political screening and not technocrats. In a country like Nigeria today, as in where we are going right now, we need a technocrat to handle the country. And you will agree with me that most of them, even at their various states, they were not doing well. And let me cite this as an example. The IG that were appointed was is ADC when he is a governor. Is that how we are supposed to handle the issue of the country? Because this man has helped you, you brought him to Rivers State, deliver your what you want, and you make him an IG. That is not the kind of Nigeria we are looking at. If this man is from Party B, you know that this man is a technocrat. He can handle the affairs. Bring him on board. What we need is result-oriented ministers that the country needs at this point in time.
All right, Braid, thank you. Temple is in Rukwaku. Let's get Temple now. Hello.
Good morning, the very distinguished Femi.
All right, Temple, good morning. Very fantastic. What's your expectation? The new ministers will be sworn in today.
My expectations, my hopes are very high. In as much as there is no school that someone can go to perform as a minister. And Dr. Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and the late memory of late Professor Dora Akoele, those are very super ministers who perform credibly well. Dora, even as a director of NAF that perform credibly, I have not even seen
sorry, Temple, I think you'd have to do all the call back. Ken is in Emoha. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Phil.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
I don't have any expectation, or I don't expect anything good from this set of ministers, because if you check, imagine when the president will submit the names of the ministers without attaching portfolios. That is to say that one should have been appointed or assigned with what he has the experience of. We are talking about screening. What did they screen these people? Is it based on their qualification or just as a politician? What we say that is the field that they look into? So for me, I don't expect anything. Imagine somebody will go for a doctor. Then in appointment, they will give that person a duty of or a minister of works or every other thing. So that is the politics they are playing. I don't expect anything good from this set of ministers.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me quickly make a correction from, I think Temple was saying something before we get on to Ken and Muriel. In case you did not know, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, she's an economist, so she didn't learn how to become Minister of Finance there. And it's the reason why she's at the the WTO at the moment. She's an economist, all right, expert economist and international development. So it's something that she's quite aware of. Dora, on the other hand, was also a pharmacist. Okay, she graduated. She studied pharmacy, and she also even went on to do that was pharmacology at the University of Nsukka, UNN. University of Nigeria in Nsukka, I beg your pardon, and she even went on to do ethnopharmacology. So it's and when you see the performances of these people in those positions that they were given, because perhaps it's something that they're familiar with, many would just say it gives you a sense of direction on what to do. Robin is in a chair. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. It's Andrew.
Yes, go ahead.
I've said from the beginning, I, as Robin Manda, the farmer, I have no expectation, no hope. Where is the hope? Now, how old is Nigeria? Look at the crowds of people that are dancing around the clock, holding Nigeria to ransom. From governor to senate, senate to minister, minister to this. Who are these people? They are all politicians recycling themselves to milk this country called Nigeria. At the time, the former governor of Rivers State, who is going to assume today as minister of FCT, was the governor of Rivers State. Akpabio was minister of Niger Delta. What has happened to Eleme Road? What happened there? What are we talking? People are clapping hands. Somebody's appointed there with clap hands. People are dying every day. How old is Nigeria that this group of people cannot think out of the box? That Nigeria, one of the only oil-producing countries, do not have a functional refinery. And we have one running in Angola. We are here shouting minister. Minister to do what? They are to SLR and to make more money for themselves.
All right, Robin, we have to quickly move on to Muriel. Oh, goodness me, Muriel. I think you would have to call back for whatever reason. Perhaps you're interrupted by service providers. Mr. Mark, let's wrap things up here. I mean, you heard some of the callers, and most people aren't optimistic with regards to what they're from. For you, I was citing examples of some of the past public office holders that we had, especially for areas that require some level of professionalism and require technocrats some way. Do you have all expectations, Yiaga, personally as yourself? Where are you looking at this from, and what do you expect?
Well, I expect them to step up to handle and do the work that's expected of them, and I can speak in aggregate of all of that. I understand where this is coming from regarding saying they don't have issues of them because a lot of them are recycled. But I also see the fact that the same ministry have bureaucrats, and we mentioned that earlier. We expect that those who do not, actually does not betray our trust in them or them. But regardless of whether we feel they merited it or not, whether they are being recycled or not, we should not go at the bar in terms of our expectation. So very importantly, in the end, also a lot depends on the leadership, because only so much also a minister can do if he or she has to. Don't give them the room, their best, hold them accountable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Azza, for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, the Senior Communication Officer at Yiaga Africa. And some messages we still have here. Let's see. This one says, if I look a few of them. Nobody was agreeing to be minister. We saw people who just put their sleeve to play, where someone couldn't speak on his own education qualification. This is Mienye. You sent that message. This person to Kenneth says the government of Tinubu and the APC are not only confused, they're a disappointment to Nigerians. In fact, no hope. That's all I can say. Okay, more messages, if I can. Okay, good morning. This one says, for me, majority of these ministers appointed by the president are just compensation for their dirty job. All right, Ifeami Andrew is my name. This is how we wrap things up. Hello, Port Harcourt is next.
As a mom preparing for a big family party, what's the right soup that goes well?